Welcome everyone to another episode of Around the Block Talk. Today we have with us Jennifer Navarrete. She has multiple years of experience in the podcast and social media industry, and is a voice for creators to start exploring new platform and particularly Web3, which is now coming up. So very happy to have you here with us today, Jennifer, and I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Super thrilled to be here. I think the more opportunities that we have to demystify the blockchain and Web3 for creators is a great opportunity and time well spent.
Yes, indeed. So you've been a creator yourself for multiple years, and now we're seeing a new possibility for creators in the Web3. So we would really love to explore this topic with you and what are your views on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been a podcaster since 2005, and I've been a blogger, and I've been a community builder, and I've been very active in social media. I've led events, I've held live events. I've done a lot of those things to help build up awareness of the use for social media. Back in 2005, when I was talking about podcasting, people looked at me like I was nuts. I was speaking some crazy language. I was speaking Klingon. They couldn't understand what I was saying, and they couldn't understand where there was a business use for this thing called podcasting. They couldn't see a business use for blogging. They couldn't see a business use for vlogging, which is what video was back in the day, video blogging. And they couldn't see a use for social media. So as the years progressed, I began to understand that when I thought something was truly amazing, was going to revolutionize and change the way that we connect and engage with one another, and folks thought I was nuts, that I needed to lean all in. Because what that tells me is that I'm an early adopter, and eventually the world will catch up. But for now, it's early days. And so when I started looking at Web3 in March of 2021, I had a really good friend, Shane Mata, who said, "Hey, I've been doing this stuff for a couple years now. I think you'd be interested in taking a look at this." And I was like, "Sure." So he showed me Web3 and how he was using it. And I was like, "Hey, I actually remember something like this back in 2017 that I joined, created an account, created 4 posts, thought, meh, it wasn't for me, and walked away. But now when I was looking at it again 4 years later, I was like, ooh, this has really changed. There was so much more to offer. And as a creator, I could see pretty much everything that I was doing on Web 2. There was something for me to do. And you may be thinking, well, okay, Jennifer, what were you doing? Well, I was podcasting, I was blogging, I was doing social media, I was doing video. Everything that I was doing, I could do it on the blockchain, but with the fact that I could own it and I could earn from it, which was like, amazing. So my mission that I have right now is to demystify the blockchain for creators, because when you hear the Web3, you hear blockchain, you think, oh, Bitcoin, you think cryptocurrency, you think DAOs, you think all kinds of things. And yes, blockchain and Web3 is those things, but my purpose, my goal, my mission, my use for Web3 is very, very narrow, and it's specifically around how it can be used by creators, how creators can own and earn. So I'm trying to get the word out so that more folks will do their due diligence and research and take a look at what's there, because what's there, in my opinion, is amazing. So if you're someone who's like an early adopter, it's a prime time for you to start doing your due diligence and research and kind of dip your toe into the stream and see if this is something that makes sense for you, because the masses aren't here yet. But if we look at podcasting, if we look at blogging, if we look at social media, we know that eventually the masses will be here. It will become mainstream and big business will show up. So why not, if you're an early adopter, jump in and start kind of looking around and getting a sense of it for yourself as an individual human being. That way, by the time the mainstream shows up, you can be a guide. And that's what I am. I am a guide to others. And I want to encourage more folks to learn so they can be guides for others.
Well, that's very right indeed. So, what are the core differences do you see for content creators compared to Web2 platforms that we have today and the Web3 platforms that are coming?
Sure. I mean, right now, if you wanted to create an account on Twitter, create an account on Twitter. It doesn't cost you a dime. You can do it. You can create an account on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitch, you name it, you can create an account. But those are all individual accounts owned by different companies. So you have to have a username and password for every single one of those things. And you know how it is with usernames and passwords. Eventually it gets kind of fatiguing. On the blockchain, you have one account And in your one account, you can access everything that's on the blockchain. So when I say the blockchain, there are many blockchains. I'm using it as a general generic term. But let's just take a blockchain. And I like to compare a blockchain to like a mall or a market or a place where there's lots of stores. So in the US, we call that a mall. You go to the mall and you can go shop, you can go eat, you can buy music, you can buy toys, you can buy hobby stuff, you can buy clothes. There's all kinds of things. You can buy electronics, you name it, it's there. That's why you go there, because you don't have to go to a bunch of different stores. You go to the one place, you can go to everything you need. So if we think about the a blockchain like a mall, once you have your account and you have your keys and you have access to the mall, you can go anywhere you want. It's the one you that's everywhere, as opposed to I'm going to follow you on Twitter, but I'm not following you on YouTube, and I'm not following you on Facebook, and I'm not following you on Instagram. So you're creating content not just on Twitter, you're creating content on all these other places. But because I don't follow you in all those other places, I don't know what else you're doing. I'm only getting one small bit of you. Whereas with the blockchain, you may not be following me on the video DApp because they're called decentralized apps. You may be not be following me on the microblog app, which is like Twitter, but it's on the blockchain. It's something different. Name something different, completely different, but similar. Or you may not be following me where the videos are being created, where the podcasts are being created. It doesn't actually matter, because if you're following me, you're going to see everything I create, where no matter where I create it. And I'm also going to be able to see everything that you're creating, no matter where you create it. And I think that one account to rule them all, or that one access point, really is liberating, because as long as I have my one account and my keys to access the mall or the blockchain, I can go anywhere in there and I can create however I want to create, and I can connect with other people all over the world. And it is very, very global, so much more global than traditional social, because there's no algorithm telling me what it thinks who I should follow and what I should see. I see everything. I see things in other countries where people are writing in their own native tongue. I don't understand it, but I can see the picture of the breakfast that they ate. I can see a picture of their village or their town or their city. I can see a picture of their kids or their dogs, of the butterflies and the flowers in their country. And yet, guess what? I have butterflies and I have flowers and I have kids and I have dogs in my country. So in my way of looking at it, the blockchain, because there's not an algorithm telling you what it thinks you should see, because you can see everything, it's a truly wonderful way to shrink down the world and to get a better sense of understanding that we're all just human beings on planet Earth, spinning around the sun, trying to live our best lives as we can, and just doing it day after day. So to me, the blockchain is a great liberator. It's also very easy because of the fact that you can follow everything I'm doing just by following me. It doesn't matter where I'm doing it, whether I'm creating a podcast or anything else. And so to me, that is one of the big differences and from Web 2 to Web 3. There's a lot of them, but I think that's pretty key.
Right, indeed. So you mentioned firstly a kind of platform independency that's going to happen, and probably users, the content creators can actually switch platforms and take their followers and take their content with them. If say one platform is not available anymore, so that is one possibility that opens up. And other thing that you mentioned is the algorithms that we are at the mercy of. The algorithms, let's say by Facebook, and they kind of drive what we see and what content gets pushed around. So that is definitely another application of it. So extending on this, on these two possibilities, what can we actually do with this, and how much of a liberating force can this be for both the content creator and the content consumer?
Right. So, okay, if you're a content creator, if you like to blog, if you're a podcaster, if you just like social media, if you just Instagram is your jam and you're like, this is where I go, or if you're someone who's a live streamer on Twitch, or YouTube is where you like to go, there are places like that on the blockchain, on various blockchains. So, some place to go when you hear everybody talk about Web3 and they NFTs and they talk about all these things, and you always hear everyone say, do your own due diligence and research. There's a reason why, because there's a financial implication that goes with creating content on the blockchain. You own and you can earn. And I think because of that, no one can tell you to go do this, because we're not financial advisors at all. So we're going to give you, I'm going to give you some information, but you have to go and do the research, just like I did for myself, or you can find people who are doing it and have them help guide you. And I have found a lot of wonderful guides on the blockchain. People in general are very thrilled to welcome others into the space, because they're experiencing how amazing it is, and they're like, this thing's amazing, other people should know about this, which is how I feel about it. So I would say a few places that you can go look and do some of your due diligence and research are where the dApps are aggregated. There's a bunch of aggregator places where you can do some research. One is called DappRadar, DappRadar.com. Another one is called dapps.com, and another one's called I think expert. But if you just do a Google search and just type in DApp list, it'll show up. And what'll happen is you'll be able to look at all of the dApps and blockchains that are out there. So if you're like, I'm only interested in gaming, which by the way, gaming, play to earn, meaning you play a game and you earn from playing the game. You can earn NFTs, you can earn tokens, you can earn currency. There's all kinds of things that you can earn if you're into the play to earn space. So if you all you wanted to do was game, there are some blockchains that are game heavy, where they've got a lot of games. And then there are other blockchains that have some more social media and some games. And there's others that are all about finance, decentralized finance. And there's others that, I mean, it goes on and on and on. But where do you go? I would start with what you really enjoy. Remember, I said my focus was extremely narrow. I'm all about the content creators. So for me, when I go and take a look at these, when I do a search, I immediately go to the tab that says social. And I want to know what the social dApps are that are on the various blockchains. And what it'll do is it'll list the social dApps, decentralized apps, and then it'll tell you which blockchain they're on. And that's a great way to start your research, to get a sense of what's going to work for you and start looking at what's there. And what I do is I go and like create accounts and go, do I like this? Do I not like this? But I do a lot of research before jumping in. And then I kind of get a sense of it, because you can't just show up and, go like, I'm here and I'm going to create all the content. You need to get a sense of the community. You need to get a sense of the platform. You need to get a sense of the blockchain and who you are there. So a lot of times what I recommend, and what I did myself, was that I created an alt account, meaning an alternate account, not me, not Jennifer, not e-podcaster as I'm known on Web 2 and now Web 3. I created an alt account that was just didn't have anything to do with me, but only so I could kind of like go, okay, how does this work? And how does this happen? And to develop a community without me, someone who is known in my space, having any influence. If I came in as an unknown, how would this blockchain treat me? And I discovered an amazing group of people. I thought, this is really fun. And I did eventually go and claim my name, and I'm myself there now. So if you look up at ePodcaster on the blockchain and on Web 2, you're going to find me. But it was a really very liberating experience. And a one big aha moment for me was that I thought, okay, so I told you that I started in March of 2021. In the summer of 2021, I started kind of looking at it a little bit more seriously, because I was starting to earn a little bit. Not a lot, 2 cents, 4 cents, 50 cents, something simple. But I can tell you that I have over 46 or 47,000 tweets on Twitter, and I've never earned a penny, let alone 2 cents, 4 cents, or 50 cents. So it was kind of intriguing to me. So I thought, I'm going to do an A/B split test. So I was baking a lot of bread at the time. I was kind of on a bread baking kick. And I took some photos, took a collage photo, and I posted it to Twitter, and I posted it to a blockchain that was like Twitter, but it was on one of the blockchains. And I had over 5,000 followers on Twitter, and only 3 people liked it, which is fine. Maybe people don't like bread. I do. And on the blockchain, where I only had 11 followers, no, it was 9 followers. 9 followers, that's how new my account was. 11 people upvoted it, and it wound up getting like 80 something cents. And I wound up getting half of that, because as a creator, you don't get all of it. You get a portion of it, and the rest of it goes to the people who engage with your content. They're called curators. And that's a whole other topic for another show that we could do. But that really showed me like, oh, this exact same photo of me baking bread on Twitter with over 5,000 followers got 3 likes, and on the blockchain where no one knew who I was and I only had 9 followers, got 11 upvotes, and I earned something on it. And so from that moment on, I started going, okay, I really need to look at this seriously. So what I did was I decided to create the show with my buddy Shane Mata, the one who in March who had said, you need to take a look at this. I said, hey, I want to create a show, and I want you to co-host it with me. And he's like, let's do it. And so I bought the domain cryptocontentcreators.com on July 4th, which is Independence Day here in America. And on July 7th, he and I recorded episode 1. And so we have a whole season one of episodes where we interviewed other people, where I was learning about it and asking questions. And it was a lot of fun. And then in November, I did something called Social Media in the Blockchain, a microblog for National Podcast Post Month. And then in January, I created the Blockchain Creators on Twitter, and I did a 31-day show. And now every Wednesday on Twitter Spaces, you can listen to me and join me and have a conversation with me for Web3 101. So as you can tell, pretty much everything I'm doing now involves Web3 in some way. And it's really for me to demystify the blockchain, encourage creators to take a look at Web3, and really just get that ball rolling to kind of bring people together. And if you're an early adopter, again, this is the time for you.
That's great to know that you kind of discovered the power of Web3 and you're currently exploring that. So one core concept within Web3 would be of data ownership. So at this moment, the content that creators create, so it is not owned by them, rather by the platform. So now we have the opportunity to kind of own it and have a say on how my data or how my content is going to be viewed. And also that you mentioned that what it allows for the creators is to directly earn and monetize their content. So, so there's also another entire token economics that emerge on top of it to kind of enable this ecosystem where creators are earning tokens. So, what are your views on this new aspect of data ownership, and what does it mean for the creators who now have power and control of their content?
It's such a powerful thing. And here's, I've never personally ever been censored or deplatformed or put in Facebook jail. I've never had that happen to me, thank goodness. But do know people that has happened to. And a few years back, one of the podcasters who participated in National Podcast Post Month, which is something I founded back in 2007, it's 30 podcasts in 30 days during the month of November. It happens every year. He told us that he had over 3,000 followers inside of a Facebook group for his podcast, and that he woke up one day and that group was gone. And he couldn't find it, and he didn't know what had happened. And it turned out that Facebook said that he had done something against the terms of service. And he's like, I don't know what I did. He said, our this group was just around our podcast. So he had spent all those years and all that time creating this very vibrant community. I mean, 3,000 people in a group around your podcast, that's a lot. That is a lot of work and effort. It's a lot of people for it to be gone like that without him having a say so, without him having access to them otherwise. He said, I will never do anything like that again. And so that stuck with me. This was a few years back, but then I've heard other stories of somebody waking up and all of a sudden their YouTube channel was gone, and they'd spent years developing that, and all of a sudden it was gone for whatever reason. And it's painful. It hurts. And what do you do? Because it's, again, you don't make the rules. It isn't your platform. You have no say so in that. So when we shift this to the blockchain, it isn't that people are going to like what you say all the time. There is, just as much as there's an upvote, there's also a downvote. So people can downvote you, and that does have a negative aspect to your rewards and to your reputation and to all kinds of things. But no one can take it away. They don't have to like what you say, but no one can take it away. And I think that is so powerful because it's always going to be there. Excuse me. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem.
Good thing this isn't live, right? Or is it live? It's not live, is it?
It's done.
Okay. So the really nice thing about the blockchain is the peer-to-peer aspect of it, that even if somebody took your stuff down in one server, it's still all over the world in other places. Hold on. Oh, now my eyes are going to run. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Right, indeed, that was very rightly said. So I'm also a content creator on LinkedIn, and I've had that experience with me where my LinkedIn account was banned, and I had to run around trying to figure out why that happened, multiple emails to actually get that back. So that's definitely a pain point in the industry. So and also another topic that is around the same thing would be of advertising. So all these platforms in Web2, they are using the content creators' content and the user data, and based on top of that, they decide how to advertise and that
Yeah.
is how the algorithms are designed.
That's how they
So
make their money. Yeah.
yes, indeed. Indeed. So now this particular model is going to change in Web3 of how the advertising money is distributed amongst the content creators, among the users, and among the platform. So, what are your views on that, and how do you see that will change?
So let me back up just a tiny bit. So a lot of times you think people know this, but maybe they don't. And I'll give you a meme that I saw that I love, and I wish I could find it again, but I saw it once and it stuck with me. So Web 1.0, right? We're talking about the 90s, and in the U.S. It was kind of like walled garden. So you think about in our country, it was called AOL, America Online, and you would go there and they would create the content and we would read it and they made money, right? Because they sold our data. Then Web 2 is where we find ourselves with traditional social media. They give us a platform. It's free for us to use. So they have servers to pay, employees to pay, developers to pay. I get it. It's not like it's just one-sided. It is a give and a take. But if you're using something for free, you are the product. In other words, we are the product because we've got this free platform. And they sell that our data to advertisers, and that's how they make money. So then we go to Web3, and there isn't advertisers there. Not that there can't be, there can be, but for the most part, it's peer to peer. And it's just something where we are engaging with one another. So if somebody upvotes my content, then the reward system goes between me and the person doing it. So it's you don't just earn from creating, you earn from what's called curating or engaging. So what's an engagement? What's curation? Liking, commenting, sharing, same stuff we do on Web 2, but there's a reward system tied to it. So there's real value there. So when we think about Web3, it's creators make the content and creators make the money, but not just the creators, also the curators or the folks that engage. So that is such a shift in the way that we're accustomed to it. And it just kind of feels like, oh, this is kind of amazing because I can like what you say on Twitter. I can share what you've said on Facebook. I can comment on something that you've created on YouTube, but I am not going to earn anything from that. It's goodwill, but it really shifts to this concepting of value for value. And you create value, something of value that I'm like, that's really cool. And I'm going to give you value by upvoting you and commenting and sharing. But you're not the only one who's going to earn from it. Because I'm engaging with your content, I'm going to earn from it too. And it's kind of this, again, from when I understood this, I was like, oh my God, this is what it should have been like all the time. It makes so much sense. It's a beautiful system and it's very liberating and I love it. It's just such a great thing to experience. And I think until you experience it, it seems kind of like, nebulous. It seems kind of like I don't get it, Jennifer. Experience it. And for me, that bread one was really the big aha moment for me. I encourage you, once you decide what blockchain that you want to get on, to do your own A/B split test and discover that understanding and get that your own aha moment because it's very powerful.
Right, indeed. So another aspect with the Web3 would be the decentralization part of it.
Hmm.
So at this moment, let's say Facebook, they have complete say of how the platform works and how the platform evolves in the future. But with Web3, uh, the content creators, the users, everyone has a say in the platform. Everyone can decide how the platform is going to look like and how it's going to evolve. So, what do you think are the possibilities around that, and how is that going to improve the overall experience of using these services?
That was something that took me a little bit longer to understand. And you mentioned it earlier where we have a say. And when you said that, I'm like, he's absolutely right because we do have a say. Every single person who's on the blockchain, who's creating, who's curating, who's a member of that blockchain community has a say. Now, how much of a say you have depends on your reputation, your vote value, your staking, on many factors. But the longer that you're in there, the more that you put into it, the more that you've earned over time, the more your vote value is. But no matter if you started, today, your tiny, tiny little bit would still be something. And eventually you'll grow it as you create more content and spend more time in the space. But we do have the opportunity to vote for things that we want. There's proposals. And you can go and read all of the proposals that are out there, the people who want to build these new feature sets or a new DApp or a bridge between, this blockchain and that blockchain or between the Lightning Network or there's all kinds of things. And so we as a community get to go vote on the projects that or proposals that we want to fund as a community. And so that gets funded and then that gets built and then it's something that we can all use and we can benefit from. And if there's things that someone wants to build that people don't really see value in, then guess what? It doesn't get funded. And we all have a say in that, and it's really a great thing. But even then, we as the individual users do vote for what's called witnesses, meaning the folks that are going to run the servers and the folks that are going to steer and guide. They're kind of like the governance folks. But we get to vote for them and we get to unvote for them too. And that helps steer everything. So it's kind of this beautiful little system. I've only been in it since, like, really actively in it since March of 2021, so I'm in month 15. But the more that I learn about what's there, the more enthusiastic I am about being involved in it. So I'm still learning, but that's what's so awesome. There's still so much to learn, and as much as I've learned in this time, I'm learning stuff all the time. And so if you're someone like me who gets excited by, shiny objects and who likes to kind of see, ooh, what does this button do? Oh, what does this lever do? What's this over there? This is definitely a place for you because there's so much to learn and there's so much being developed all the time. So it's constantly shifting and growing and changing. And it's just a lot of fun.
Right, indeed. So, as you mentioned, everyone's a learner in Web3 at this point because it's such a new thing. And all of the technology is there, but we are still kind of figuring out what can we do with it, what kind of platforms we can build with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, indeed, what kind of ecosystem can we build around it. So, another question from my end would be, how do you imagine the future of social media? And because with Web3, it will be very different from the
Mm.
form that we have today. What is your vision and what is going to look like?
Sure. So we know that the major social media companies recognize what's happening. And if you have the ability to get tips on Twitter, the very first option that pops up is Lightning, the Lightning Network, Satoshis. The second thing that pops up is your Bitcoin wallet, and then it's Cash App, and then it's Venmo. Those are not the primary. So fiat is not your primary way to tip. It defaults automatically to Satoshis and to Bitcoin. And yet it's all there. You can do fiat, you can do crypto. And I kind of love that because they're recognizing that this is going to have to be something that's get integrated. I don't ever see Facebook giving up being decentralized because you can have centralized blockchains, you can do some of those things. Is it true to the spirit of blockchain? Well, I'm not going to say that it is or it isn't. I don't have enough knowledge or scope or breadth of awareness to say that it is, but I can see that they are probably going to adopt or adapt themselves to include that as an aspect. I think we will eventually see curation and engagement getting a reward system. In what way that is, I don't know. But I think as more and more people shift towards Web3 for the reasons that I've shared with you all today, I think we're going to see where, Web 2 companies are going to go, we want to be a part of that. And maybe they won't change their main model, but maybe they'll have an offshoot, of it so that if you want that, you can get it and they can still keep you instead of losing you. Now, I share all this with you that knowing that I'm just as active, if not more active on Twitter than I ever have been. I'm still active on traditional social. I'm not telling folks to go, oh, drop everything and go over here. No, I'm asking you to consider it as an additional content destination in the same way that when we first were, maybe you first joined social media and for you it was Facebook. But then later on, it was also Instagram. And then maybe later on, it was also YouTube. And then maybe later on, it was also, TikTok. So you haven't given up Facebook, or maybe you have, depending on your leanings, or you haven't given up these other things, Instagram. You've just added another place for you to consume and create content. So if we look at Web3 as one of another destination for you to consume and create, one that has ownership and earnings, I would say consider that. I do an interview series called Walk Talk Challenge, and I interviewed some women of Web3. And I was talking to a mom in South America, if I recall, or maybe it was Venezuela. And she said that what's happened for her as she started to do more and more Web3, that her Facebook and her Instagram usage kind of came down to half because we only have so many hours in the day. And she said, but she is finding more and more value in what she's doing on the blockchain versus what she does on Facebook and Instagram. However, her family's on Facebook and her friends are on Instagram. So she's not giving it up. She is allocating and shifting more of her time elsewhere, but she sees where she really wants to spend more time on Web3 because of the ownership and the earning opportunity that she's a mom, like a mommy blogger in essence, and she just sees really that value over there. So I'm kind of getting a sense that more and more folks, as you begin to discover the value of Web3, it isn't that you're going to give up Web2, it's just that you're probably going to reallocate your time and where you spend it.
Right, that's very true because the Web2 giants that we have today, they have a very big network as of this moment, which is not there in Web3, eventually evolving. But you kind of have to do both of them at this point in order to
Right.
navigate it. Right. So also, I would like to understand from you this entire Web3 movement. So the one barrier over here would be the adoption and the education around it. If people are
Mm.
not aware how to use it, what it actually means, right? So what kind of adoption do you see coming up, and how fast are we actually going to see a lot of people coming to these networks?
So I started doing these educational series when I started doing the crypto content creators this past summer with my buddy Shane Mata. It was because I really wanted to learn and I really wanted to share what I was learning. And then in November, I did a 30 episode micro podcast, meaning episodes that are like from 2 to 5 minutes. And I did 30 of them during every single, for the month of November. And that was like trying to just baby step and breadcrumb the concepting of Web3 and then, what's a blockchain or what are dApps and doing a side by side comparison. Like, this is like Instagram, this is like YouTube, this is like Twitch, this is like Twitter, kind of doing that side by side and then diving into podcasting because I'm initially, first of all, always a podcaster and the new podcasting 2.0 namespace and how the value for value model works and all these things. And it was a 30-part series, which anyone can go listen to now, social media and the blockchain. And so that was an educational component. And then in January, I created the 31-day challenge going live every single day on Twitter Spaces. And I created a community called Blockchain Creators because I wanted to, again, baby step a single knowledge piece and then have discussion. So people would join and they'd listen to me share a little piece of knowledge and then we'd have this discussion around it. I did that for 31 days. And then people kept asking me, I really wish that you had a course or do you have do you have trainings or can we hire you to consult or for coaching? And I thought, well, I could, and I kept getting asked that. So finally, in March, launched my first workshop, and it was called Web3, I think Web3 and Blockchain for Creators or something. I kind of adjusted the name. Now I've settled on Web3 and social media for creators, and I did one in March, I did one in April, I did one in May. So I'm doing one every single month, and people are coming in, and what I'm doing, it's a 4-hour workshop, is I am showing people literally everywhere that I am on the 4 blockchains that I'm on. They're my accounts, the content I'm creating, how much I'm earning. They're looking at my wallets. I'm giving them my experience. But to me, the real understanding is by seeing. And then the real true understanding is by doing. So at the end of the 4-hour workshop, people can onboard to a blockchain. I will help them onboard if they want to. And if they don't want to onboard then, they can onboard later. And sometimes folks are like, I wanted the knowledge. I'm good. I'm not ready for it. Thank you so much. And it's kind of a mixed bag because some people are like, yes, I'm all in. And so they sign up, they get going. And others are kind of like, that's interesting. I know after watching all that, I'm not ready for it yet. And that's good too. You may not be ready for it yet, but at least have an understanding and awareness of what it is. So that way, when it comes up in conversation, you at least have that cursory knowledge. And there's other folks that are like, I know this is for me. I'm all in. Let's go. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I encourage others. I'm really encouraging a lot of the folks that are active in the blockchain and have been to create more knowledge opportunities. And so I know quite a few folks. I know someone who made a primer. I know somebody who's made a guide. I know someone who's hosting weekly spaces. I'm hosting Web3 101 every Wednesday, but there are others. And we need more of that because no one person can educate everyone. And plus, everyone has a unique spice and flavor. The way that I talk and the way that I speak and the way that I teach is going to be attractive to some and not attractive to others. Someone else may be someone that they can learn from. We need more types of people educating and informing and guiding folks in order to really get the word out. So you asked, when do I think this is going to happen? Going back to knowing that I was podcasting in 2005 and doing social media in 2007, 2008, and hosting events along social media. So I have this long tail view and understanding. The way that I look at it, based on my understanding, is that it's very early adopter right now. But within the next 18 months or so, you're going to start to see the very beginning of the mainstream content creators really start taking a serious look at this. We won't see the big wave for at least 3 to 5 years. When grandma showed up on Facebook, you're like, whoa, this is mainstream. Grandma's on Facebook. So we're not there yet. Not to say that there aren't grandmas on the blockchain. There are, but there's always those, hardcore techie, geeky grandmas. And so they're there for sure. So please know that if you're a grandma and you're on the blockchain, yes, I get it. I get you. But you're talking about the average grandma who's not techie, who isn't techie geeky. When she shows up on the blockchain, that's when you know it's gone mainstream.
Right, indeed, that's very true. So the mass adoption is a few years away, although you need to prepare today to actually ride that
Be
wave.
the guide.
And
Learn so you can guide others.
indeed, indeed. So there's definitely a lot of educational material that is needed, and even with our show, that is something that we're trying and connecting with so many people around the world, trying to get different perspectives on how this is panning out. So also another thing that I'm really curious about this entire movement would be so now that you own your data, now that you have a say on how you want to use it, on how it all works out. So what kind of creator economy does that enable? Because the creator economy today is very different. Is the name the terms are named by the platform. In the future, the guiding principles are named by the content creators themselves. Right. So how does that creator economy pan out? And also the aspect that in this movement, the entire world is together. In the earlier
Yeah.
movement, uh, it was a very selected group of people. Right now, I can tell you, it has reached the very grassroots of a nation like India, where the population is so large and there's so many possibilities. So, what kind of a creator economy do you see emerging in this new domain?
Well, and you nailed it on the head, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's really the shrinking of the world. Now, here's the piece that I find so absolutely wonderful is that the value of whatever cryptocurrency on whatever blockchain is the same for you in India as it is for me in Texas. It's not like the US dollar, the euro, and the peso and the pound. No, it doesn't matter. No matter where you are in the world, it has the exact same value. I mean, imagine that. There are folks who live in countries who have a lower cost of living than we do here in the US. And I saw somebody who actually posted about this. I think they were in Ghana or maybe Uganda. And they said if I can make $150 a month from creating content, I never have to work a day in my life because their job becomes creating content, but not just creating, curating. And I was like, that's amazing. I so love this. Now, I cannot do that for $150, but because the value is the same, it doesn't change. It's amazing. And so I love that. It's like we have this global community that is communicating and is encouraging and is growing, and the value for us all is the same. Now, we all as human beings get to decide where we live on planet Earth. I live in Texas, but if I didn't want to live in Texas, I could go live in Tennessee, I could go live in Mexico, I could go live in India. I get to choose as a human being where I want to go live. So let's say if I wanted to make $150 worth per day and it sustained me, then guess what? I probably need to go to Uganda, right, in order to make that work. So I think that really kind of liberates and really frees up the concepting of what it takes to make a living. A lot of times we feel trapped. Oh, I have to live here and my cost of living is really high. And like the people in California, it's very high, expensive to live there. The people in New York, Texas is pretty affordable, but if you want to be really affordable, you can go to like North Dakota or South Dakota. There's all kinds of you can go, instead of living in a big city, you could live in a small town. That's even more affordable. So I think knowing that, it really does give you that agency and that ability to make really good informed decisions and make decisions that work for you. I love this opportunity that we all have equally.
Indeed. So just as an example, there's a game called Axie Infinity in Web3, and so the major adopters of that particular video game would be from the South of Asia, like countries like Philippines, where people are using it as an alternative to their day jobs. They are full time playing these games, and they're able to
Yeah,
make a
play
living
to
out of it.
earn. Yes, play to earn is so amazing. I'm not a real I'm not a real gamer, but my youngest son, who is a play to earn gamer, introduced me to a game that he was playing, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but he said, "I'll help you, mom," and I was like, "Cool," and so I learned from him, and it was so much fun because we'd go for walks around our neighborhood, and while we were walking, I would be asking him questions about, okay, I was playing this and this happened. What does that mean, and what do I look for? And it was totally a shift because I'm his mom, and I've always been the educator for him, and now he was the educator for me, and it's been just a real pleasure to kind of a different dynamic to our relationship. But yeah, play to earn is really serious. There are people who are making a living just from playing a game, but because it has a value associated with a real value that you can sell to pay bills. And speaking of which, I'll do a little shift. Bitcoin Pizza Day was last week, if I recall, which celebrates the anniversary of the very first pizza that was bought with Bitcoin. I think it was like, I don't know, 10,000 Bitcoin. There was some
10,000
amount of Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
for like two pizzas, right? So there's this annual tradition I discovered on Bitcoin Pizza Day for you to use cryptocurrency to buy pizza. And so this year, because it was our real, we really were like into this, I'm like, let's do this. So my youngest son said, I'll do it. And he took some of his cryptocurrency and bought two Papa John's pizzas. And it was the best dinner ever because he earned that crypto from creating content or from gaming. And so there is a real world application, and it wasn't, you could do more than pizza because the place where you can convert it, actually, you can buy, I don't know, Home Depot, or you could buy Olive Garden, you could buy whatever gift card that you want and use it for whatever in the real world. But I was like, this is amazing. We ate dinner from some crypto that came out of content and gaming. I mean, who does that? Apparently we do.
Indeed, a very different world that we're getting into now. Also, with the Web3, the value or the value being captured, which was limited to a group of people or at the top, people at the top of the food chain. Now that value is now being captured by everyone along the trail. So even the people at the bottom of the pyramid, they get to capture this value, and that value is distributed in the entire pyramid. So how do you see that changing the economic order that we have in the world today? Does that affect that, or how does that?
Ooh, that's a big question. I'm neither qualified nor knowledgeable enough to really answer that. And everything, by the way, folks, everything that I'm sharing with you is totally my own experience. I'm not a financial advisor. I haven't played one on TV, at least not to the best of my knowledge. I'm sharing with you what I'm learning. I'm an endless student. I'm still learning. However, have discovered enough to know that this is pretty amazing. And if you're a creator, this probably is something you might want to consider. It does have a financial impact. There's a reward system in place. There's taxes. There's all kinds of things that come to play. So again, that's why you hear everybody say, do your own due diligence and research. There's a reason why. So I'm merely sharing my own experiences. And even though as much as I do know, there's so much more that I don't know. The decentralized finance arena is fascinating. I read a lot of blog posts and articles and watch a lot of videos from people who are very, very into decentralized finance. And probably I understand about a third of it, maybe, because there's a lot of ways that people are using the cryptocurrency decentralized finance to do creative things. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I don't have the mind for it, and I kind of wish I did, but I can appreciate how people are utilizing decentralized finance to really fund their lives and to make investments and to do all kinds of things. So there's a lot still out there. I don't know enough. I know enough to know that I don't know enough. Let's put it that way.
Sure, definitely. So everyone is indeed a student here and trying to get their head around this new technology. So even for me, I got into this space like 6 or 7 months ago, and I'm trying to actively learn what can be done with. So
Isn't it
with
awesome
that,
though?
indeed. So there's, as you mentioned, there's an aha moment where it just strikes you that how big of a thing it is, and then you can't look back. Right? So the world has changed for you after that. So with that, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks a lot for coming on the show and sharing your insights and your vision in the space of Web3.
Oh, well, thank you so much for for having me. Folks, take a look at it. I think if you take a look at it and give yourself, be patient with yourself because there's a lot of terminology. We probably said a lot of words that you're like, I don't know what that means. There's a lot of terminology and there is a bit of a hurdle to kind of get into it and to understand it. But if you will go through jump the hurdle and go through the steps and eventually get in there, get into the mall, and start doing things on the blockchain, I promise you, you'll probably have that aha moment just like we did, and you'll be like, well, of course, this is where I should be creating content. But it's a journey, and this is the way I look at it. I probably will be creating content until the day I die. So if I know that I'm going to be creating content till the day I die, and I have a long tail, let's say a long tail, then why not start now? And just kind of see what happens because I'm still creating on Twitter. You know, I've been on Twitter since 2007. I have over 46,000 tweets on there. And if I think about if somebody had paid me 2 cents or 4 cents or 50 cents for that, wow, that kind of is a little bit of something. So if I'm going to be creating content anyway, why not create it on the blockchain where there's the opportunity to own and earn?